offshore wind, solar. Dominion Energy is a leader in the clean energy transition. We're dedicated to providing reliable, affordable, safe, and clean energy as we support and invest in our communities. Dominion Energy is building a clean energy future. Actions speak louder. Welcome to Actions Speak Louder, highlighting Dominion Energy's clean energy projects and community support. I'm Peggy Fox, Dominion Energy's Media and Community Relations Manager in Northern Virginia. Today we're discussing Dominion Energy's commitment to environmental justice and our work with tribal relations. I'd like to introduce my guests. We have with us Katie MacCormick, who is an environmental consultant with Dominion Energy, and also Ken Custalow, our Tribal Relations Manager. Thank you guys both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
You. So Katie, let's start with you. What is an environmental justice consultant?
Sure. Environmental consultants in general are providing expert subject matter, information to help guide our project development, our ability to comply with laws and regulations. And so that's really my role, but my subject matter of expertise is environmental justice. And so I advise project teams all across the company on how we should consider environmental justice matters as they apply to the work that we're doing. And we also look at laws and regulations and making sure we're complying with those as well.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And Ken, tell us what you do as the Tribal Relations Manager.
Sure. Well, infrastructure projects that we have in many cases, many times can be on lands or have effect on lands or environments that are important to Native Americans. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of two pieces of my job. One piece is actually talking to the tribes about those projects a long time before we're doing any permitting, before we're doing any construction, getting their feedback and thoughts on the projects, concerns they may have, and talking through and trying to address those concerns. Probably the favorite part of my job is I also get to look for opportunities to invest in Native American communities through volunteer projects, contributions, through our philanthropic foundations, and opportunities like that.
I met you first, both of you first, last year at the Native American Memorial, that Veterans Memorial.
Correct.
That was recently built right outside the American Indian Museum in D.C. And both of you are tribal members. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Sure. So I'm a tribal member of the Chickahominy Eastern Division tribe in Virginia. My dad was born and raised also on the Mattaponi Indian Reservation in King William County. So as with Katie, very strong connection to that community. The Native American Veterans Memorial came about in a flyer that I happened to get at home about they were building the memorial, and Bill, our senior VP, pitched the idea to him, very supportive. So the company ended up giving a considerable amount of money to the project, and I was just very proud. One of the best accomplishments of my career so far. It's just been able to facilitate that.
Well, since you're talking about it, I think we should show everybody what we're talking about, because again, that's where I first met you in person. And it was 2020 that I received a phone call from you, Ken, telling me that you were putting together this proposal that you're talking about, a proposal for Dominion Energy to be one of the national sponsors of a memorial that desperately needed to be built and was long overdue. It happened, and Dominion Energy provided $100,000 to help build the Native American Veterans Memorial. It's beautiful. It's a special place on the National Mall. Take a look.
It's beautiful. It gave me chills. I walk into the ring, I hear the drums beating, and I'm just moved by the spirit, the energy that's there. And again, thinking about my brothers and sisters who have served in the military gallantly as Native American citizens.
I think it's a beautiful memorial. I think they did a great job creating a peaceful, quiet, reflective space, and I think it's especially important that we have this memorial here in the nation's capital, where we have a lot of international visitors, people from all over the country come to see it, and it's just going to do, I think it's going to do a lot to raise awareness of the unique traditions of service that inspire so many Native Americans to join the military. I think the communal aspect is a really cool part of this I didn't expect. So being here today and seeing that other people have come here, apparently Native people, and they've left prayer cloths and tobacco to honor, presumably, their ancestors or their veterans and their family. And so it means a lot to share these feelings and not just hold them to yourself. So I see this as a place for community healing.
We've served with honor in the military for years and years, and I think Native Americans have been unknown warriors. People don't know the story, how compelling the story is. So on a per capita basis, they serve at a higher rate in the U.S. military than any other group within the United States. So the opportunity to contribute to building a memorial that tells that story, informs people, educates, and maybe even making a change culturally was incredibly exciting, and I'm very grateful the company made the donation.
I was always kind of generally aware that Native American people had enrolled in higher rates than the average Americans in the military, but I learned today through the museum's exhibit that, for example, in the Vietnam War, Native Americans, 1 out of 4 eligible men enrolled, a lot of them voluntarily, compared to 1 out of 12 at a rate of the general population's participation. So that was just a specific number to put to it that I had never known before, and it kind of shocked me to think about 25% of the young men enrolling and the impact that would have on families and communities. It was a big sacrifice. I can't speak for all tribes, but in the traditions I'm familiar with, there's a big focus on selflessness and service. And in fact, being selfish is one of the worst things you could do from a Native perspective. So I think that underlies it. When your society is built on an idea of selflessness and service, you understand that sometimes you have to make sacrifices, and the military is certainly one of those, as not only Native American veterans, but all veterans understand.
I think it just goes back to the appreciation and the recognition of Native Americans as a people group, as a valued people group, and celebrating their contributions right here in Washington, D.C. It's amazing.
Such a beautiful memorial, and I hope if you haven't had a chance to go see it that you get down to the National Mall and make sure that you take some time and really visit it. Katie, let me ask you, what was your impression? You told us there in the video, but I mean, thinking back and looking at that once again, what comes to mind?
Right. Honestly, when I watched it again, it kind of made me tear up a little bit. I will admit that. There are members of my own family who are veterans. I lost a great uncle in World War II, who I didn't know, of course, at that time. But I've had, and like many other members of our community, it's personal. So that's definitely there. But just like I said in the video, just having some place where we can share, I think that is really valuable as well. And I'll repeat it because I think it's important. Washington, D.C. is a place where a lot of international visitors come, and so how we treat Native American people and their issues in our nation's capital is going to reflect to all those visitors from outside the country, what we think about this and what our priorities are in regard to these communities.
I really thought the memorial was done so well. There's just this reverence when you go there, and the music that you heard in the video piece that you just saw is actually played there. There's speakers on the ground, not blaring, but it's subtle, and it really kind of puts you in the mood. That was my impression. What did you think?
Yeah, it's a beautiful kind of relaxing space. It's interesting because it's right near a very busy road.
Yeah.
But yeah, that music and the trickling of the water and those kind of natural sounds really help give you a kind of reflective feeling.
Right. Very close to the Capitol as well. Within sight. It's across the street basically, which is very interesting. But I love all the vegetation that they've planted up around it. And then also, if you haven't been inside the American Indian Museum, it's a wonderful place and great. And I know you guys got to go in on that day as well.
We did.
And Ken, what were your thoughts again?
Yeah,
on the memorial?
I thought it was the irony, but yet the justice created by having, if you go and you look at the memorial and you see the United States Capitol in the background, and finally you felt like, wow, recognition. We've kind of made it. So it was very poignant, very, very poignant for me, and just seeing the little prayers that were attached to the memorial, and seeing how people were using it and just paying homage to their relatives was moving.
Yeah.
It was very spiritual.
It felt interactive in that
did.
way.
It did.
You know, that people felt comfortable to do that, and I guess that was expected, that they people are invited to pay their respects that way. And Katie, we didn't talk to you about your background. Could you share with us about your tribal background?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a member of the Pamunkey Indian tribe, and we're kind of located alongside the Pamunkey River in Tidewater, Virginia area. You know, it's just been really an honor to me to be able to kind of come out here and represent and speak about Native American communities. It certainly has influenced the way that I look at my work, and helps motivate me, you know, and helps inform the way that I think about people and what they need and their perspective when it comes to Dominion's projects. So I would say it's been great to be able to take that personal experience and use it in a, you know, to move forward a career and also the goals of the company.
Yeah, and it really sounds like the perfect job for you, because you have a biology degree, you have this science background, and
That's
now using that with your environmental justice work.
That's right, yeah, and I'll put in a plug here for all those folks who are thinking about a career in science. Right, we really need diverse representation in all sorts of STEM fields, and this is just an example of what you can do with that sort of educational background.
Ken, so you're the Tribal Relations Manager. Talk a little bit about how many tribes are there in Virginia, and how closely do you work with them?
Yeah, so there are 7 federally recognized tribes and
Okay.
4 state recognized tribes in Virginia. And you know, I've just been blessed with the opportunity to grow up in that community. So it's kind of like working with my friends a little bit, but I think in terms of being an ambassador, if you will, for Dominion Energy and what we do, I think it provides me access and credibility, and oh, this is Ken coming to talk to us about this project, and he's one of us, so he understands our perspective and our needs. And
You know, it really is all about relationships, building relationships,
Absolutely.
understanding one another,
yeah, absolutely.
listening.
Yes, listening, trust, doing what you say you're going to do.
And you're, not that you're a liaison, but you can kind of be a liaison for the company in terms of listening to the communities and then listening to the company and trying to bring people together, right?
Yeah. Katie and I both spend a tremendous amount of time on project calls
Right.
at work, and just providing the feedback that we're hearing from the tribes or the EJ communities, and the things that we can possibly bring to the table to support the tribes or mitigate a concern we have. And it's just great to have that trust and that information flow between us and the tribes.
People think of Dominion Energy, oh, that's the energy company. They bring us our electricity, but we do a lot of constructing, right? We have to build
Yes.
things. We have to build new infrastructure. Right now, we're building right now on the books would be the largest offshore wind project in the country, called Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind, CVOW. And I know you're involved with that. And really, what the point I want to make is, we have an environmental justice component for every project. Is that true?
Well, yes, so we have a company policy. It was, you know, kind of established in 2018, and when I came on board in 2019, that's when we really started to implement it. And the policy asks us to look company-wide at major projects. We do so much stuff, and a lot of it is pretty minor, so we've kind of cut it down to major projects. And we do demographic screenings and reviews, and then we, you know, get together and we talk about those findings and figure out, you know, how can we find an optimal outreach strategy that will provide opportunity for meaningful involvement to all people. That's really the kind of the gist of it.
And I know you are involved with the offshore wind project. What kind of things have been happening there?
Sure. Well, I have to say there's a very large team involved in that project, and it's been a big effort, I think a labor of love. It's been really exciting, actually, and I'm proud of the outreach that we've done there. We have talked to, you know, we've had more than 1,000 encounters with different groups and people. We've talked to more than 11,000 individuals. We've sent more than 175,000 pieces of mail, and that's all just in the last year,
Wow.
building upon a 10-year strategy of stakeholder engagement around the pilot project, you know, that even got us to this point. So I really do feel confident to say that we've worked with all sorts of stakeholders, community, you know, local governments, and, you know, to really figure out the best way to do this with the least amount of impact.
Right.
Because we know we have to do it, right? Because clean energy is an important goal as well.
Right, and that seems to be our focus for any project. What is the least impactful to the community? We also have to take cost into consideration, but that's a separate issue than this.
Right.
But the least impactful, because obviously when you're digging things up and building things, it is going to be impactful. But that's what you're trying to do, is to listen to the community and be that liaison.
That's
to
right.
Provide information.
Yeah, if you have to provide, millions of customers with affordable, clean, reliable energy, there are inevitably going to be construction, that and eventual types of impacts. But yes, you said it right. The goal is to absolutely minimize those impacts, and more than that, to make sure we're proactively seeking out the folks who normally don't have a loud voice,
Right.
so that we can understand how are you being impacted, and if we don't know that, right, we can't avoid it. So it's really just making, in a simple way, you could think of it as benefiting both sides. The more we know about the community, the better we're able to avoid impacting them.
Do we sometimes make changes after hearing from the community?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, communities would be engaged really early on and have a say, at the ground floor, so that we don't get too far down the road and have to make major changes, right? That can be hard for the company. That can cause delays, cost overruns, and things like that. That doesn't help anybody. But if we can get, early conversations going and really be thoughtful in our strategy up front, I think that's the best way, to make to find the compromise that makes everybody happy.
Right. Now you're a scientist, a biologist, and you are also a tribal member. How do those backgrounds inform you with your work now and help you?
Sure. Well, I think everybody knows at this point, or at least it's out there in the national discourse, that diverse voices are important.
Yes.
It just gives you different perspectives. And again, if you don't know something, you can't address it. But I also want to point out that, for Native people, recognizing interconnectedness and that we all depend on one another is also really important, and I think that's worth mentioning too. When you go into a situation, there's no piece of this puzzle that is unimportant. Right? We have to hear all sides of things and move forward together, because what hurts someone else today is connected to me in one way or the other.
And Ken, do you two work together a lot?
I'm on a conference call with Katie probably at least 4 or 5 times a week. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. A tremendous amount.
Wow, I'm sure you do. Yeah. Does your work overlap then with environmental justice?
Yeah, so when Katie is doing her EJ screening, she's also looking for the different census blocks and Native American components that are there, even if there aren't, just with the history of Native American communities, just because a Native community isn't there today, doesn't mean there wasn't there or a community that had interest yesterday.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yes, because of forced relocations and movement of it, the Indian tribes and those type of things.
And land can still be sacred, even if people may not be living there.
Absolutely. There is a tribe that was relocated during forced relocations to Oklahoma, the Delaware Nation. And when we're doing projects, we're sending out communications. They express interest in projects in Virginia all the time because that was their Aboriginal territory.
How, there's a lot of talk about, learning from the past, and you just mentioned the forced relocation. How important is it that, we teach the children today all these things that happen to our people, to people in different diverse groups of people?
It's incredibly important. If people don't have the perspective, they won't understand, well, why do tribal people in Arizona with the Navajo, why are they so up in arms about this? If they don't have that background. I guess a great example, my 9-year-old is in public schools, and he brought home some information about Thanksgiving, the first Thanksgiving. And I read it and I said, that's not what happened.
What did it say? Let me guess.
Well, it was very happy, and
Yes,
everybody
very
was
happy.
hugging, and there was no contentious issues. And I said, Levi, let Daddy tell you about another perspective that you need to know when you're looking at Thanksgiving and the holiday and the paradigm. So that's a hard lesson for a 9-year-old.
And we've done that with lots of different histories, haven't we?
Yes, we
Sort of
have.
changed them
Yes,
along the
we
way.
have.
And
Yes.
I think education is so important to learn what happened in the past and how
Yes.
what happened in the past informs today, affects today, why there's disparities in wealth
Right.
and many other things as well.
Yeah, what I'm really excited about is just to work for a company that is open-minded enough to acknowledge that, to try to do things to be sensitive to, and to even provide funds to right wrongs in some
Right,
cases. So
right.
it makes it a pleasure to do what Katie and I do, to work for a company like that.
My feeling is that most people don't know this about Dominion Energy. Do you think that's a fair statement?
That could be fair, but I would say that it's also a fair perspective, right? Because building relationships and building trust takes time. And so, this is environmental justice and tribal relations, and the work that Ken and I do is very much a reaction to the public's and investors changing expectations of us. It's a new thing. I think we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace to kind of catch up and understand what is now being expected of us. And I think that's what we're trying to do. So I think it's safe to say that, Ken and I are patient, and we are, willing to wait till folks come around.
I was just going to read this. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says environmental justice is, quote, the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, in the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. So does Dominion Energy's policy look like that? Similar?
Yes, very similar. What you read there is kind of, there are varying definitions of environmental justice depending on what state you're in or who you're talking to, but that's more or less the accepted definition. And we did kind of pick up on that, as the backbone of our approach. So, yeah, but that's also a kind of a big, long,
Right.
difficult to understand definition. And so I think, I would just put it like this, that it matters that people are involved in what's going on in their neighborhood. It really does matter. That's really a foundational aspect of our democracy, is citizen participation. We have faced barriers to that participation for many different groups, for many different reasons, for a long time. And what environmental justice is, at its real root, it's about making sure that people get involved and have a voice, because that's the path to justice. We can't. It's not as you can't just jump to a just and equitable world, right, without all these diverse perspectives we've been talking about. I don't think it's a top down. I think it comes from the bottom up.
Do you see a relationship between environmental justice and climate change?
Well, there certainly are links. The term climate justice has been
Yes.
coined to describe the disproportionate impacts that are currently being experienced and also predicted to occur in the future for all kinds of disadvantaged communities. Native American tribes are certainly one of the, I'd say, in that mix. A lot of, in Virginia here, a lot of tribes, historically we used waterways as transportation pathways. A lot of us still live near the water today, and of course when you're talking about sea level rise and increasing storm frequency, that puts you on the front line. So we are certainly looking for solutions and hoping to be part of the change.
We also have an effort at Dominion Energy for diversity and inclusion. Ken, talk about your work with diversity and equity
Sure.
and inclusion.
Sure. Yeah, so I've had multiple opportunities, probably honestly, Peggy, I guess before I did this job, I was in human resources. So even way back in 1986 when I started with the company, I was still talking in and saying, hey, what are we doing for Native American communities? I'm very proud to announce the vice presidents and their staffing folks have approved a program called Native Pathways, which is a Native intern program. So we actually have our first Native specific posting out on the internet right now, trying to get tribal kids to apply for that.
I saw that. That's fantastic.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if it'd been around, but it's brand new.
It's brand new. Yes,
Good deal.
yes. It's something that, so I'm obviously very appreciative and very happy about the support that we're getting for that.
So let's see, how to reach the young people, Ken. I think you're going to need to get a TikTok account. No, but we were talking about reaching out to communities and all the forms that we've sent out and emails we've sent. But I mean, there's just such a volume of information coming at people every day that you kind of have to tell them and tell them again and tell them again and tell them again, and then figure out where they are. But how do you reach the young people, I wonder?
Well, what I'm doing, I mean, it's the beginning of a journey right now, right? So I'm
Right.
learning how to more effectively do that. Obviously, I have a lot of great contacts within the Native American community, tribal leaders, tribal administrators. Virginia Tech, we have relations, that we have an Indigenous People Center
Right.
there. So Missy Faircloth at Virginia Tech is helping out and using.
Go Hokies.
Go Hokies.
Okay.
UNCP, I've got some contacts. UNCP, University of North Carolina, Pembroke, has 8,000 to 9,000 Native students there. So we've got some contacts there that we're using, and just hoping all those. I'm using LinkedIn, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Technology, non-technology
Well,
guys.
I've
using
noticed,
LinkedIn. Yes.
my daughter's in college, but I've noticed I'm asking, friends of hers are reaching out on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
We're leaving Instagram behind and going to LinkedIn. So
Yeah,
it's all a matter of what you're interested in and where you can find information and connect with people, and that's a great place to connect.
Yes. I think the challenge that we still have, Peggy, is Dominion Energy is a great company. We're great environmental stewards, great community stewards, but all energy companies have not been that. So unfortunately, I think what the paradigm we have to work through with these kids is that we're not like the energy company that was doing the Dakota Access Pipeline, right? We're not like this company, all energy companies. So part of my next challenge is really taking that communication to the next level, rebranding Dominion within the kids community.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me know when you get your TikTok account going and whatever. No, I'll retweet you.
I'll let a lot of people know.
You guys, thank you so much for coming in and talking about environmental justice. Katie, so you're so knowledgeable, and it's really wonderful to see what our company's doing with environmental justice and also tribal relations. I don't think most people know about either of these subjects within Dominion Energy, so I really appreciate you coming on and informing everybody.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Our pleasure.
It was a blast. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for watching Actions Speak Louder. We hope you join us next time to learn more about how Dominion Energy is working toward a sustainable future while supporting our customers and communities. You can find links to our Actions Speak Louder programs on YouTube by searching Peggy Fox Actions Speak Louder playlist. Take care and be safe.